Okay guys, I'm going to give you the details of this assignment here. It's called the Environmental Impact Statement. So the gist of this is that there's a law called NEPA, N-E-P-A, which stands for the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. Anytime that there is significant federal money going into a project, there has to be an environmental impact statement written to outline the environmental impacts of whatever that project is. So this EIS becomes a tool for decision making. It basically is a huge list of all the environmental impacts and then solutions to those impacts. So a company has to have an environmental scientist come out, assess the project, and produce this report. And if there's something missing from the environmental impact statement, like let's say you wrote this environmental impact statement and you forgot to mention that you're going to contaminate the groundwater. If you forget something, the EPA can go after you and sue you for any damages. So an environmental impact statement becomes this huge list or a statement of all the impacts that can be expected through this project. So, for example, if they're doing mountaintop removal, they will have to mention we are going to destroy habitat. We are going to cause sediment pollution in nearby creeks and streams. We're going to there will be tailings piles which could lead to acid mine drainage. If you forget to put something in there, the EPA can go after you and sue for damages. So an EIS is literally just outlining what is going to happen and what are you going to do about it. How can you minimize or mitigate those problems? So here is your project. The project is natural gas mining in Allegheny National Forest. So natural gas mining is drilling, just like drilling for oil. You're going to drill and extract natural gas. That's the way natural gas is mined. Now this is a lot different than mining for coal in that it's not strip mining, it's not mountaintop removal. This is literally natural gas mining, which looks like drilling for oil. In fact, natural gas and oil are found in the same deposits. Natural gas floats on top of the oil. So all you have to do is drill down and allow the natural gas to seep up your well shaft, and then you can collect it and you build a pipeline to take it to processing. So in the Allegheny National Forest, which is up in the northwestern portion of the state, and here you go, it's outlined in green, and I'll just trace it in blue. So in the Allegheny National Forest, they're opening up this area to fracking for natural gas. Okay, so now the environmental impact of the fracking pad itself is somewhat small. Alright, and here's an image of a fracking pad, and what you want to look at here is how minimal the impact is, but it's definitely there. Alright, so you've cleared this area of what was once forests, so there's a bit of deforestation going on here, and here's your wellhead. So when you install your wellhead, this thing is going to be drilling down and pumping up the natural gas. So when you drill down, it doesn't take too much space on the surface, but you do have, if you notice here, a paved area. Even if it's not paved, you're going to have increased runoff from any stormwater. And then here's what I wanted to point out here. You should know this now after having learned this in class about mining. Here's a surface impoundment. Now this surface impoundment, which is wastewater stored at the surface, you can see there's a liner here. That's something that you're going to want to look into, the environmental impacts of it and what could happen and what you're going to do to minimize the impact of these surface impoundment. You can talk about habitat destruction, you can talk about building of the roads, which will fragment habitat. You can talk about all that stuff, but the fracking pad itself is somewhat minimal. It's going to be the impact of the drilling itself, the use of fracking fluid, and then the construction of the pipeline that you're going to need. That's going to have the most impact. So here we have a construction to allow for the mining and extraction of natural gas, and a pipeline constructed from the National Forest to Philadelphia. Alright, so here you go. You could think of fracking going on in the National Forest, and then they're going to build a pipeline down to the I-80 corridor, alright, over to the eastern part of the state, and then down through Bucks County to the ports in Philadelphia where the gas is processed and then shipped out on the world marketplace, alright, to wherever it needs to go. So the environmental impact statement is going to have to be written to identify and explain the environmental impacts of the fracking pad and then the construction of the pipeline. All right, that's your project. That's your paper. All right, and you can look at some of the details here. The pipeline will go under the Susquehanna River. All right, so I'm giving you a little hint there of one of the impacts. When you're putting a pipeline under the river, there could be water contamination. So that's a little hint there by saying that. All right, so here you go. The EPA has asked that an environmental impact statement, an EIS, is written in order to evaluate the proposal before any work can begin. You are placed in charge of making that happen. So very quickly, let me give you the sections of an EIS. So here you go, 4 sections. Section A, an introduction, which includes the purpose and need for the project. This is the why. So let me give you some answers here. What is the purpose and need for this project? The purpose and need is to get natural gas. So you might think, well, why do we need natural gas? What do we use it for? We use natural gas for energy, which includes electricity, cooking. It's very, very useful. And just so that you understand, if the United States is going to get ourselves off of coal and oil, we cannot just skip to things like solar and wind. You can't do that because solar and wind, the technologies just aren't perfected yet. It doesn't meet the demand of our energy needs. You need what we call a transition fuel, and natural gas is a perfect transition fuel. It burns cleaner than coal and oil, so there's less carbon emissions. We have it, especially in this state. The Marcellus Shale is a virtual ocean of natural gas, and it's domestic, and it's cheap, and it's easy. So the purpose and need is to use as an energy source, and it's cheap, easy, and available. All right. Section B are the environmental impacts. Now you're just going to number these with descriptions. So I'll start here by telling you there will be a bit of habitat destruction. Okay. Now what you could do is number those, so you can then go on and number all the environmental impacts that you find when you go and research the impacts of fracking or natural gas extraction, and then the impacts of building pipelines. So all you're going to do is number these, and then you're going to write a short description for each. So habitat destruction. In the EIS, you're going to talk about where that's going to happen. All right. We are going to be building these fracking pads, so we could say fracking pads, construction, maintenance, all right, because you're going to have trucks visiting those fracking pads, and use. You could say which includes roads, will lead to some habitat destruction, mainly from deforestation and truck activity. You could say something like that. All right, this is just off the top of my head. Now, the deforestation here is minimal in this case. However, it is there, so you're going to want to mention that. And for that section, you're just going to go ahead and number all the environmental impacts of fracking and the pipeline. The next section, proposed solutions to the environmental impact. So for every impact you have, you're going to propose a solution. So let's say 1A is going to be a solution for habitat destruction. So you can number and letter these accordingly so that you can go 1A. So whatever 1A is, it would be in response to number 1 above. So the proposed solution to habitat destruction. What could you do to minimize the impact of the fracking pad and the maintenance and the trucks that are going to be visiting these fracking pads? That's something that you're going to have to come up with. It could be something like minimize the number of fracking pads needed, maybe mandate or regulate how often they're visited. I don't know. I don't want to give you too many answers with the solutions. You're going to come up with solutions. You're not inventing solutions. And I don't want you to brainstorm. I want you to actually look up proposed solutions in the fracking process and the building of pipelines. So, look up ones that are actually used. Look up any laws or mandates for the size of the forest that needs to be cut down when you're putting a pipeline in, how deep, that types of stuff. Actually, what's done to minimize the impacts of these activities. That could be practice, it could be technology. All right, the last section is citations. Okay, so this isn't meant to be a tedious, long, drawn-out paper that's going to bog you down in any way. I want what is NEPA, what is that law, what is an EIS, and you're also going to walk away with a lot of information about natural gas extraction and mining, hydraulic fracturing, and the environmental impacts of that, and pipelines. Okay, if you have questions, shoot me an email, but I want to get this recorded because I won't be seeing you, so hopefully this helps. Again, if you have any questions, let me know.